Knightline is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 212 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me, as always,
Trace Trylko. Hello, everyone. UCF football gets the road dub. We're talking about it with former Knights quarterback Kyle Israel. One-on-ones with AAC Commissioner Mike Aresco, former UCF running back Latavius Murray, and his New Orleans Saints teammate Teddy Bridgewater, talking men's hoops with former Knights player Ben Stout. And is it time to move Gabe Davis and Marlon Williams to the O-line? That's in Ask Knightline. But first,
all right, UCF volleyball wins the AAC championship tournament. Very, very cool that they did that. But first, I should introduce our friend that is in the studio today with us. Ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only Libby from Twitter.
Hello, Night Nation.
oh my
I didn't
goodness.
even have to wrestle anybody in coleslaw to be here.
I forgot about that. That was a long time ago. Thank you for bringing that back up. I'm probably going to get hate mail again because of this.
She's been waiting a week to use that line.
Whatever.
I think that was the thing that I got the death threat over.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, appreciate it. Welcome to the 1148 studio.
Thank you for having me. It's fun.
Is it what you thought it would be?
I'm super impressed. I can't believe the setup and the work that goes into this and watching it behind the scenes.
Well, we sure fooled you.
No, I definitely appreciated you guys before.
The curtain has been pulled
but
back.
I appreciate y'all even more now.
All right. Well, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Enjoy. I'm glad that you're here and
Yes.
going to talk the rest of the show with us. So
Yeah,
very
throw
cool.
in any time.
Can
So
roast
volleyball, back-to-back champs. It's always good when
It's
we get
awesome.
to celebrate a championship.
And then this year was the inaugural championship tournament as well, and so they got to do that. So
what was unbelievable about this is in the third set, Cincinnati's up 24-18, and they're just 1 point away from match point. And if they go up 2-1, UCF would have to win the fourth, then they have to come back and win the fifth. That's challenging. And UCF kept stringing points together and wins that third set and doesn't give up another point, wins 26-24. Unbelievable. I mean, they lose that fourth set close, and then they close it out. And Cincinnati has been strong all year. They beat them in the previous two matchups. That's why Cincinnati won the regular season. So hats off to UCF. McKenna Melville, who's just unbelievable and played lights out, was the most valuable or most outstanding player in this tournament. She just talked about in the postgame how this really can prepare them.
The tournament sets us up for a good position in the NCAAs. It kind of shows us what a tournament's like. It's win or go home type situation, so that's really good for us. Winning this is also obviously huge. We get into the NCAAs, but we knew coming into this that we had to play our best game. So we've been practicing all season to play our best game at this time. We didn't necessarily need to play our best game when we played them the first two times, but when we came to today, we had to play our best game.
what do we got? Bowling going on in the background of this thing? Oh my God!
We're deep in the recesses of the venue, and I have no idea what was going
There
on
must
in
be
the
a
hall.
bowling alley above your head. Lord have mercy! Somebody was hitting a strike right there for the
All right.
ball of gutter ball. rolling down
UCF 24-7. They await now where they may go in the NCAA tournament. Unlikely that they might host. Look for the NCAA to send them on the road somewhere, probably Gainesville or something like that. But back-to-back champs in the American. Kudos to Coach Dagenet and the team for putting together just an unbelievable championship game.
Well, this is exactly what Danny White said from the beginning he wants to build championship teams in all the sports, and man, it's really working out so far. It's a big week in sports for UCF. Besides that, a big basketball game that happened, and then I guess bigger than all of it, except maybe the football game, but I think bigger than all of it is this soccer game that's going on right now.
Yeah, and as it unfolds, we'll be recording. It's 1-1 now between UCF and Missouri State. Missouri State scores on an odd goal in the first couple of minutes.
Immediately, yeah.
Yeah, the goalkeeper for UCF just basically kicked it back to him in a turnover, and they punched it in right off the top. But then UCF clamped down on D. Still 1-1 now going into overtime, and I'm trying to watch it, and we're talking about football, and Libby's here, and it's all very distracting here in episode 212.
Yeah, we've also at times had the Grey Cup, the Canadian Football Championship, because Brandon Alexander, a former Knight who was a safety, you might remember him for, intercepting the ball in that Houston game, a couple games like that. He made that stuff just happen. Very, very good player in the Grey Cup for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And second play of the game, he had an interception in this game. So I think that was only his second interception this year. His first went for a pick six last week. So very cool there. But we also had a UCF football game to talk
really
about
important,
as well.
a road win, 34-31. A week ago we said road warriors or more road woes, and it seems like the score was closer than the game felt at times.
It didn't.
You know what I mean?
It never felt that close to me. In fact, I did a double take at the score at the end. I'm just like, what?
But had
3 points.
Tulane recovered the onside kick, who knows what happens there in that
I was saying
final minute.
On the morning show today, I was saying that I kind of judge the way that we're doing overall just by my gut feeling, and if I feel like we're going to lose, most of the time we lose. If I feel like we're not going to lose, we usually pull it out. I never thought at any time during this game that we were going to lose the game. I never felt that it was out of hand. So I'm good with what happened. I liked some of the play calling this week. Some newer things in there. A couple players that we haven't seen a lot stepped up. Dylan Gabriel ran.
Dylan Gabriel ran?
Well, I mean,
we've been talking about it all year.
Yeah, the leading rusher in this game, which is kind of unfortunate for the rest of the running backs. There were some issues. There were some drop balls.
It was odd in that regard, right?
It was really odd.
Yeah, and I don't think you can be alarmed about it.
Was it cold there?
No.
Yeah.
I know John with people back and forth on Twitter during the game at UCF_Knightline. Subtle plug, Libby. She knows that handle very well. Goodness. Lights us up daily half a dozen times or more. But anyway, it was saying, what's wrong with these guys dropping the ball, and called out Jacob Harris. And I will say, in watching that play, I saw Jacob turn his head, and I could see the sun just blasting off the helmet.
Yeah, that one hit him in the face.
Well, I'm just saying, I'm not making excuses for nearly a dozen drops, 9 or 10. I don't know what the final stat was, but I really think when he turned, he got blinded by the sun, is what I think happened in that situation for him.
Yeah, it happens. And a lot of those were right in the players' numbers as well. I mean, they were right where they needed to be. They just didn't catch them. And
as a result, Dylan Gabriel, you look at the stats, 24 of 46, 317 yards and a touchdown. But again, several drops, or his stats,
would have been a lot better.
Would have been a lot better.
And we would have probably had some more points than that. So, yeah. It kind of is what it is.
Okay, so I believe UCF has scored here, men's soccer in overtime.
Oh.
They have.
And that is the goal. It looks like it's off Cal Jennings, 2-1. That will be UCF winning in overtime over Missouri State. That is a game winner in overtime.
Right here.
Well, by the time they listen to us, they'll have known this.
Still.
But I've got to react in real time. Wow, there it is again, the replay right here.
Awesome.
Wow.
Very cool.
Very quick start in overtime, just 43 seconds into overtime, and that's Cal Jennings, one of the nation's leading goal scorers. UCF now possibly could host the next round, going into the next round of the NCAA tournament, depending on how things shake out.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So,
wow, that's exciting.
Yeah.
What a weekend now when you think about it.
Absolutely.
Football, men's basketball, volleyball. Women's basketball, men's soccer. It's just, they ran the table this weekend.
We do nothing but win, win, win.
There we go.
There it is. Are you tired of winning yet?
No.
I'm not tired
not
of winning.
Not with UCF, we're not.
I can tell you that. I'm definitely not tired of winning. All right, another guy that's not tired of winning would be Josh Heupel, and here's what he had to say after the win at Tulane.
Proud of the way kids competed today, man. Competed for 60 minutes. Obviously, some things we did in the fourth quarter made it, a one-possession game there at the end. But I thought our kids were resilient all day long and handled the ups and downs really well. Huge turnout from Knight Nation and supported and brought a lot of energy to our sidelines as well. Appreciate that.
All right, Trace, you were there. Tell us about the conditions out there for the post-game show. That was a little weird.
It was a little unusual. The post-game media area was supposed to be in the batting cages where Tulane's baseball team practices. However, it was not handicap accessible, and a member of the UCF Media Corps, Brian Murphy, good guy, does freelance work for the Orlando Sentinel, amongst other things, and they moved the entire post-game out to a table under a tent. I think it was used as a hospitality tent before the game, but it meant that everything was just out in the open. So behind us, they were loading up the rigs, all the UCF gear to drive back to Orlando. Behind us were where all the players' family and friends were, and then UCF players were leaving the locker room, greeting their families, and it was all happening right there. And, of course, you'll hear the wind pick up from time to time. We moved up so that we could be closer to Coach Heupel, and at several points the wind picked up the table skirt and was getting ready to fling it right over the microphone. And, I put my foot down on it so it wouldn't do that. And so I just know when these things happen that there's going to be some, you're going to hear noises in the audio. So it was unusual, but kudos to Tulane for, pivoting and making it accessible.
Yeah, I
for
wouldn't
all.
have known that it was outside, honestly, if I hadn't have seen Brandon's video, I don't think, first. But it still sounded pretty decent. I'm not going to complain about
There was
how
just
that
occasional
sounds.
gusts of wind.
I'm just glad that we have that audio. So I thank you for going there. What did you think of that little stadium that they have? Have you been there before?
I had been there before.
Oh, okay.
I think it's fine for them. It's big enough. It's probably bigger than they need. But they used to play in the Superdome, 80,000 where the New Orleans Saints play, and they're 15, 16, 20,000 people get dwarfed in that big stadium. For them, it's the right size. They shoehorned it in on campus. Literally, you pass houses and you look and you can see when you're driving on the adjoining streets, their backyard is this stadium.
Oh,
I mean,
wow.
it is that close. But I'll tell you what, the real story there was not the turnout. And really, for Tulane, an 11 a.m. game in a town like New Orleans, where maybe there's something to do on a Friday night. I don't know. What's that street called? But people were down there, even locals, right, enjoying guests and visitors in town to cheer on UCF. But the UCF contingent, very strong, very vocal.
Well,
and
it sounded on TV like there was more people there for UCF than there was for Tulane.
I don't know
really
if that
did.
was the case, but they announced 21,000. I don't believe that was the accurate number. I'd say it was probably 15, and I'd say maybe 3, 4, 5,000 of them were UCF at least. They were loud. And
about 10,000 more than the Cows get.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's good for Tulane.
And
Yeah.
so when you think about the schools in the American, and we just played Tulsa, and really nobody wants to go there. It's not necessarily easy to go to. Tulane may not be the best fit. It's a private school. It's a small school. But it's a good town to go to for fans.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
So
even like a Memphis with Beale Street, it's a place where people do want to go and have a good time and sightsee and such.
Well, as you heard Josh Heupel said at the end of his opening statement there, which is not normal for him to comment immediately on the crowd, he did. And here's what he had to say a little while later on the fan support.
Huge turnout, great energy during warm-ups to the opening kickoff. We're loud all day long, and I didn't expect that type of turnout, man. Fantastic, and a great turnout for a couple of our guys that are from here that had an opportunity to come play in front of some family and friends as well.
So your team needs that to feed off of when maybe the stadium is.
No, I don't think you need that. Does it help? Yeah, it can. You know what I mean? But as you become more and more mature in how you compete and play, you can handle any situation.
All right, well, that's the Heupel clip of the week right there, because you couldn't hardly hear your question, but
I asked, is that something your team needs to feed off of that energy? And he seemed to take some umbrage to it. Yeah. However, I would say when you looked at the performance in Cincinnati and Tulsa, where they came out flat, Kyle on this show when he was in Pittsburgh said the team didn't have energy, right? It seemed like the players were very motivated, especially the local guys, Nate Evans, Brendan Hayes, right? So I don't know why. I understand what he's saying. Well, yeah, sure, you'd like them to be mature and not need the crowd, but the crowd, right? That's why they play so well at home, right?
Absolutely.
So it felt a little like home, especially since the players interviewed, Otis and others, talked about how it felt like a home game. So I don't know why he was a little annoyed with that question, but whatever.
Well, and I was going to add to that, too, with your,
it's Libby.
with your interview with Otis.
Oh, you're here. I'm looking at Twitter right now during the show. It's Twitter's come to life.
I finally get to talk back.
Twitter's
I usually talk back to my radio.
Andrew, you have the mute button.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
What I was going to add is your interview with Otis is that he was saying that was one of the problems on the road is that they don't have that fan energy. So that it is true when you do have a big fan following there and they do have that energy there, that they do feed off of that energy and that it is a good thing. But yeah, I was impressed with how many people traveled down there. I mean, I felt like everybody went. But
yeah, it felt good. It just felt good to have them loud and vocal and
huge group that went.
I took a video and put it on Twitter right before the game, and I just panned around and I'm like, there's nobody here.
Well,
now
on
they
TV,
built.
it was.
I was a little worried about that when I saw that picture.
On TV, it looked really bad as far as not a lot of people being there, but you could hear the UCF people that were there. I think that they were more on the side of, I don't know. I guess they were on the opposite sideline, but that place is so small that the camera angle even is a little weird. You know, little stadiums where they can't exactly show the whole field. So I had a little bit of trouble seeing it first. We mentioned Dillon Gabriel running quite a bit, and here's what Josh Heupel had to say about that.
Some of it designed just based on what they were doing with the box and trying to make the numbers right in the run game. Some of it was just scrambles and him making plays. Thought he did a great job, his best game of using his feet in the right way throughout the course of the game.
And here's what Dillon Gabriel had to say about it.
They're crashing down. I just had more opportunities to pull it. And shoot, whatever it takes. Just getting more comfortable with the game in general. But like you saw today, they're coming down hard. Gave myself the ability to go do it. So whatever it took to win was my mindset.
I like that he said multiple times in his interview, whatever it takes to win. I like that attitude. And we need to hear a little bit more of that, I believe. Sometimes I don't feel like we get that as much as we should.
12 carries, 58 yards, so we are seeing more of him moving. I made him laugh a little in one clip where I said we starting to do a little juke in there, and he kind of chuckled about that. His sliding's, though, a little funny.
It's funny, but he said it right there. Yeah. Sometimes it's not as pretty. It is funny. He probably needs to work on that.
Sliding 101.
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard thing to kind of do. I think somebody asked him at one point, do you work on that? Do you work on the sliding, so...
Can you? I mean...
Yeah, absolutely. You go out there and you slide. I mean, when I played baseball when I was a little kid, we learned how to slide. Everybody ran around the bases and you slid into third or whatever.
Get him out there with Coach Lovelady.
Exactly, yeah. That's what he needs to do. That's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Listen, hopefully one of those guys are listening and can hear that. All right. Darryl Mack actually got in the game a little bit too, and did some good things. Threw a touchdown, ran for another one, right?
Yeah, 1-yard touchdown run made it 24-7 at that point, the Knights.
All right, here's what Josh Heupel had to say on Mack.
He did a great job when he was put into the football game of using things that he's natural at to create big changing game or momentum changing plays and did a great job running with the football, getting his pads down, getting us into short yardage situations, chewing up time in the 4-minute. Did a great job on the pass play, on the 4th and 2 to A-Rob, and couldn't be happier for A-Rob, man. Kid that continues to push and get better.
All right, very cool for Anthony Roberson to finally get a touchdown and to be out there. He is a guy that has been on this team, the entire time and, has done a lot behind the scenes. there's a lot of guys that never hardly see the field that work really, really hard in practice and during scouting things and everything else, being on the scout team and all that. So it's good to see a guy get paid off with a touchdown eventually. I think that's really, really cool. Another guy that really did well in this game that we're used to seeing is Otis Anderson. Here's what Josh Heupel had to say about Otis Anderson.
Versatility huge in the punt return game today. Did a great job of fielding it and then creating some big plays with the runs. Did a great job in the backfield. Did a fantastic job catching the ball out in the slot a little bit when we motioned him out and got some matchups that were favorable for us. Huge play early in the third quarter and then a fourth down play later in the game. Did a fantastic job.
All right, and here's what Otis had to say about the game.
Just being able to make a play, create our own energy. I think that's something big. That's something I talked about Monday. Being able to cut back and forth, it's fun, but I couldn't do it without my teammates. So a lot of the plays that I make is off of their energy and off of what they do on the field.
How important were the downfield blocks on your big touchdown?
Very important. I can't beat two people. Like, I don't care what a lot of people think, but it takes a lot of effort from my teammates, and I think that and Marlon and Gabe blocking downfield, that made a big difference because I didn't have to make anyone miss. So once they took care of their players, it was just me in the end zone. I think we did pretty well, especially playing on a road game. I just heard that this team hasn't lost in 2019 at home. So just being able to come out with a victory with 3 points, 6 points, 10 points, it doesn't matter. A victory is a victory, especially on the road. Creates your own energy. This is a great team that we played against. So I'm impressed with our team. Yeah, it felt like a home game. Honestly. We had a lot more people than I expected. I know B. Hayes and Nate had a lot of people here, so shout out to them. They had a great game. Just the crowd being that they travel everywhere that we go, that shows how much Night Nation loves us, and we love them too.
All right. Well, when you hear players talking about the crowd and all that stuff at a road game, that's a big deal.
There have been a lot of spectacular runs this season, but I think the blocking on that one was just a thing of beauty.
It was awesome.
I mean, a lot of times they just break away, an Adrian or Otis and their speed, and you don't need the blocking out in front of them because they're just track athlete. They're just flying, right? This is one where he was very smart. And if you go back and watch that, if I'm not mistaken, I just saw it in real time, so I didn't see the replay. But if I'm not mistaken, he switches the ball in his arm as well, right? So you see him, and he's following, and just very smart the way he followed them, and they were so key on that. He does not get that run without those guys.
He's a patient runner, so I love to see that.
Yeah.
All right, a little bit of issues on special teams as well.
No, really?
Again.
Oh, my goodness.
Not horrible, but...
a 98-yard kickoff return for touchdown.
That's the first one all year. So let's hear what Josh Heupel had to say about that, and I think it starts out with you asking a question.
Struggles on some special teams, though, the punting.
Punting, kickoff covered, right? Huge play in that. There's some things that we did well in it, some things that you can't do. It hurt us, changed the way the fourth quarter played out. I can't tell you all the issues right now. We'll go back and watch the film and try to correct those things.
All right. Well, I mean, that hasn't been an issue. That particular thing hasn't been an issue.
Well, not
so
that
far.
thing. I mean, the punting in this game, though, they were giving them short fields. They were lucky they didn't have more problems. I'll tell you one play. For as much as we give credit to Heupel and the coaches for the 4th and 2, and that was a big touchdown, and you were talking about Anthony Roberson earlier, he did something that was head-scratching to me, and my buddy Paul, who works for CST, was down on the field, and he brought it up to me after the game. It was so interesting to see someone who doesn't watch UCF on a regular basis question some things, like, saying, why did they do those things? They were 4th and 1 on their own 34, and they're trying to draw them off. They have timeouts, and they take a delay a game, which pushes them back to their own 29, and then he punts 27 yards, and they have excellent field position. It was like, why did all of these things happen in that order? I don't know. There was some wind, but it didn't feel like the wind was enough of a factor.
Well, they kept talking about it on the TV, that the wind was a lot. So
it was some, but it didn't seem...
Well, you were in the press box.
Well, I was down on the field at times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it didn't seem that much.
All right. Well, a couple guys... not new guys, but guys that we don't hear about a lot and don't get to speak a lot, did well on defense. Eric Mitchell was one of those guys, and let's hear from him real quick.
We know they had a good quarterback, good scrambling quarterback, and we knew. Credit to the D-line. Those guys did well on their stunts. I mean, I feel like that's what kept that quarterback in the pocket and us to create negative plays and stop the third down and fourth down.
All right, and another guy, Tremont Morris Brash, who, if you don't know who he is, he was the recruit. He's a true freshman. He was the recruit that was playing in the Gatorade game at the Citrus Bowl last year and made his commitment announcement there. And he had a really big game, probably his biggest game of the season. They finally let him talk. So here's Tremont Morris Brash.
We knew coming in that we got a tough one. We knew coming in that like he liked to escape and that like if we give him any type of rush lane, he gonna take it. So we just had to make sure that we tried to keep those rush lanes filled up so he wouldn't get out. But he did a little bit, but
I'm going to say right now, I think this kid's going to be a superstar, and I think somebody else posted that on Twitter the other day. Wasn't that you, Trace? Did you say that? No, it wasn't you.
Wasn't
okay.
me.
It was somebody that said that, and I agreed with that. I think that he has a really, really big upside, and I'm looking for him to be a superstar at defensive end, and we need one of those guys.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
I really think that it could be him. He was highly touted. He's out of the Washington, D.C. area. Was playing in that Gatorade All-Star game as a senior in high school, and luckily we got him. And so look for his name to be mentioned a lot in the future. All right, that does it for the clips. Early this week, because we got so much stuff. This show is loaded.
It's packed, and it has Libby.
They're all like, who? No. Just messing with you.
So the new polls came out, AP and the coaches. I know it doesn't mean anything. It's not the playoff cartel poll. I was hoping that UCF would get some votes in both of those polls so that there would be a chance they might move into the top 25 by season's end, and they got a total of 0 votes in each of those polls. So
it is what it is.
Just can't seem to climb back from that Tulsa loss.
But there was some news this week that just a rambling of news that, or a rumbling or a rambling. I'm not sure which one it was, but some news maybe possibly that they're looking at putting FSU and us in that Gasparilla Bowl.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
That would be a fun matchup.
That would definitely be making the Gasparilla Bowl worth it.
Yes,
personally.
totally agree.
Just to get that matchup. That would be a good matchup. It would give us a chance to whoop up on some FSU. And, I mean, if you have to go to a bad bowl game, why not do it with an in-state team?
If you have to go to a bad boy mowers bowl.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Bad bowl.
Yeah, whatever. But still, if you have to go to a game that is not the Peach Bowl, a game that is not the Cotton Bowl.
Has UCF ever played FSU?
Yes.
We have. Oh.
Back in like 95,
then 96,
it was ugly.
It was
up
ugly.
in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
It'd be a nice one to, that's a way of getting both fan bases energized a little bit.
I mean, it makes perfect sense. So if they can pull that off and get us both in that bowl game, more power to them, personally. So we'll know more about that later, obviously.
Yeah, and I've got some more information on that coming up, and I've got to look up a couple other bowl projections during our break. So before we talk more about bowls, but that is the one that is the most interesting of the week.
I didn't know you had it in there, so sorry I pulled it out earlier.
No, I've got something else I need to share when we talk bowls.
Okay.
Because it was a Ask Knightline question, and I reached out to the league for an answer, so I've got an answer from the league.
Oh.
Well, now that I'm tight with Commissioner Aresco again,
I don't know after this interview.
Yeah.
This interview, you got to stick around for this one, folks, because this one's interesting.
Now that's
interview.
a heck of a tease.
Yes.
Did you hear that? What was good about being in New Orleans, of course, is also that the other black and gold team in town is like UCF South, with Traquan Smith.
North. It would be north.
Well, still south.
We're south.
Yeah, okay.
North, still south. Come on, Trace. You're getting a little cow-ish over there because they don't know their directions either.
Fighting words. Well, New Orleans is the South. I mean,
yeah, but it's north of Orlando.
North of here, but not for everybody listening.
It's north of all of Florida.
Is it north for you?
No, it would be south for me.
There you go. All right,
Well,
so it's south for somebody.
Where are you at now, by the way?
Athens.
Athens.
Yes, Athens, Georgia.
That's the home of
the
the University
land of UGA. Yes.
Okay.
I put up with a lot.
And how far is that from Atlanta?
About an hour.
So we're going to have to commute about an hour from when we stay with you
My
next
husband
year.
does it every day.
When we stay at your
UCF
house
at
for
Georgia.
the,
Yes.
for the Georgia.
So how many of our listeners, maybe we'll do a contest. How many can fit into your house?
Anybody can come.
Anybody?
It's open.
Wow.
Yep.
Holy Moses. Libby, do you understand how many people you just said that to? I don't know if you understand what's going on
There's
here.
a lot of people that will pick up on this.
If 20,000 people show up in your front yard, it's not my fault.
Do you think you have 20,000 people that listen to this?
Absolutely.
Oh,
More
okay.
than
Absolutely.
More than that?
Yeah.
All right, well then bring it on. Come on.
It's a lot more than that,
My
actually.
HOA might have a problem.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm the president of mine.
Oh,
so,
well, there you go.
Can't beat them, join them.
Yes.
Did she park properly outside?
No, actually, she's parked backwards.
She's parked
but-
illegally?
Yeah, she is. It's all good, though. It's all good. I'm the one that does the towing, so.
So back to the Saints, which are in the southern United
You knew
States.
that this was going to go weird places today.
I reached out to the Saints in advance of the UCF game and went out to their post-practice when they make their locker room available, which is different than UCF. So you don't have locker room access for UCF. That's why we end up where we end up at times, under a tent or elsewhere. But here you
batting cage.
Yeah, batting cage. Here we actually got to talk to players in the locker room, and one of the players that I requested was Teddy Bridgewater. You remember during the media scrum with Mackenzie Milton, I asked Mackenzie, what sort of inspiration Teddy Bridgewater had been, because he had come back from just a devastating leg injury. He steps in, fills in for Drew Brees, and has had had a good run until Drew Brees came back. Well, Mackenzie had mentioned during that interview that through Traquan Smith, he said, could you, pass along to Teddy that I'd like to talk with him? And Traquan did that, and Teddy Bridgewater contacted Mackenzie Milton. So I thought, boy, that'd be a good guy to talk to, and was able to do a one-on-one at his locker.
Talk about your season so far. It's really been a success.
Yeah, just happy, to be where we are right now as a team, in a position to accomplish some of the goals that we set out for ourselves back in the spring.
How gratifying is it for you to know that you stepped in the way you did, considering the journey that you've had to get here?
I mean, it's cool, but at the end of the day, it was expected of whoever was in there, and I had the opportunity and just wanted to take advantage of it.
So Mackenzie Milton spoke with the media last week and mentioned that he had reached out to Traquan Smith to talk with you.
Yeah.
What can you share about that conversation and some of the motivation that you provided?
Yeah, Traquan just told me, man, my quarterback, he wanted to talk to you, and told him, hey, man, pass me the number. And, I remember when Mackenzie got injured, and I said, man, it has to be the same injury that I had. And you pray that it's not, as bad and as severe. But, I had the chance to just reach out to him and talk and share my story and share some of the things that, I was able to do to keep my mind off of, being injured. And, Mackenzie seems like he has his mind in the right place. And, it's just great to cross paths with him.
What he shared is that you passed along how important relying on your faith was to get through.
Yeah. So, my mom, she's a Christian lady. And, I grew up in the church, and just understanding the way that God works, and sometimes things may not go the way we want it to, but it all happens according to God's plan. So, I just tell them continue to just lean on your faith. Of course, there are going to be days where you question it, and it's okay. It's okay to question God sometimes because He answers those questions. So, just reminding him that, man, your faith, will get you through anything. And, it's just good to, hear from him every now and then and just share our stories.
He's been pretty open about his faith.
Yeah. So, a lot of times, a lot of guys tend to shy away from it. But, there's nothing wrong with, just, standing on your faith, believing in it, and understanding that, man, everything happens for a reason. I won't lose faith, in myself and my health. And for one, and number one, I won't lose faith in God. And I'm a firm believer of that myself with the way my career has transpired and things have taken off this year. So God is faithful to us, so why not be faithful to Him?
There's the physical, but perhaps the bigger challenge is just the mental, keeping your head in.
Yeah, and that's something I tell them as well. That every morning that you get to wake up and place your feet on the ground, that's a victory. That's another opportunity to do something with your life. We all think that, okay, we're injured and it's all about me, but it's not. There's still ways that we can impact our teammates, our family, our friends, our community, different ways outside of football. And that's something that I really took in when I was injured, just understanding that I have a bigger purpose. And right now, my purpose is to impact others with my story, and it could be the same for Mackenzie. So I'm rooting for him. I'm excited for him.
I asked him if the dream had changed any, and he said, nah, he still wants to get back to playing football, play professionally. He has aspirations of being a coach. When you spoke with him, you got this sense as well?
Yeah, he's definitely a motivated guy, and that's one of the biggest things to it is just continue to be in the right place mentally, and he's there, and you can't do nothing but root for a guy like that and keep him in your prayers.
And it turns out you can be a role model for someone you haven't even met.
Right. It's funny how life works, but like I said, I'm glad we were able to cross paths with Trylko, and I'm wishing the best for him.
I thought it was really nice to talk with him.
Very cool.
And that he would make that connection and has never met Mackenzie. So.
He's a good dude.
Yeah, I think
tell.
he is.
And I really rooted against him when he was at Louisville, and I kind of feel bad for it. Because he was in that Louisville game when we played with Blake Bortles there, that 2013 season. Mm-hmm. And, it was the Teddy Bridgewater show until we came along, so...
Well, more interviews. I also requested to speak with Latavius Murray, and it was an enjoyable conversation with him, so we have that coming up for you. By the way, back on men's soccer, we talked earlier about the golden goal, number 9, UCF advances. This is the first time in program history they're going to move to the round of 16 following the 2-1 overtime win over Missouri State. So
awesome.
And remember, several weeks ago, I said, watch out, this team could win a national championship. Yeah, now, they got a tough draw.
Possible.
They got a tough draw. The number 1 team in the country is in their bracket. So they've got things they still have to get through.
Do we know who they play yet?
Not yet. They'll play the winner of SMU Coastal Carolina.
So we could technically play SMU again.
If SMU wins, UCF goes to SMU, and they've lost 3 straight years to SMU in a consequential game, including the last 2 in the championship.
Right.
So right now in the early going first half, 0-0 with Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina springs the upset there, and most likely Coastal Carolina will be coming to UCF for the next round. So
good.
Something to watch for there. Want to thank Jim Hadaway, who has been one of the people that has graced the 1148 studios. You mentioned the interview with Otis Anderson, and he said he thanked me for that, and he said, you're going to get an Emmy for this one. I deflected that and said that would be Otis. So give Otis the Emmy. But thanks, Jim, for your comments. And you know who else is in this show? You mentioned earlier. Mike Aresco.
Yeah.
Mike Aresco, Commissioner
Mike
Aresco. Well, we found him.
Finally
I looked to my right.
him.
He's sitting next to me in the press box. I'm like,
perfect.
What am I going to do here? Jeez.
He probably didn't want to look at you. He was probably looking out of the corner. Don't talk to me. Just don't look at him. Don't look at him.
He sits down as the game's going. I don't have time to really jaw with him during the game. There's stuff going on. I want to pay attention and watch the game, And then I look over because I was hoping to talk to him at the end of the first quarter. And then he's gone. I see him on the field with Danny White, and then he's visiting the university presidents, and he's doing TV. And anyway, I eventually caught up with him. So we'll have that ahead. But first, we are turning to former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel to break down the win at Tulane.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, brought to you by the Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Waterford Lakes, 855 North Althea Trail, Orlando.
All right, before we talk more about UCF's 34-31 victory over Tulane, a quick question for Kyle. Well, two, really. Kyle, what was your biggest rival in high school is the first question.
My biggest rival naturally was Colonial High School, and then it kind of transitioned into Timber Creek because they broke off from us my sophomore year. So it was Colonial and transitioned to Timber Creek.
I asked this, of course, because it's Hate the Cows week coming up. And my second question to you is, who do you hate more, East Carolina or the Cows?
That's a good question. I think, intrinsically, I dislike USF more. I think I have a little bit more respect for USF because they had our number when we played back in the day, obviously in the Jim Levitt and Matt Grothe era. They had good football teams. So I respected USF and what they're able to do. They're just not anything I like or respect about ECU. I know the fans may not feel the same way, but ECU, just for some reason, I do not like them at all.
All right, we've got you on record now about that. Switching back to the Tulane game, UCF moves to 8-3. And what are your observations of the game? UCF wins on the road, which we haven't had opportunity to say in a while.
Well, I thought that overall, if you take away the last part of the fourth quarter, our team played pretty well. We had some uncharacteristic drops from both the wide receiving core and the running backs that I think may have changed the dynamic of the game some. But I thought we saw, at the quarterback position with Dylan, another really strong outing, stayed away from making many mistakes, was efficient with the football in regards to really making plays when he needed to. He did miss some throws, and again, he didn't get help all the time with catches, but he did enough to help us win the game. And then obviously he was the leading rusher with 58 yards, which I'm pretty positive I would have never guessed that going into the season that he would ever lead a game in rushing. But he did it really well, and he showed that he can run in open space. He has some wiggle about him and can make some moves. And I think that that's something that will improve with his game moving forward, obviously into this week, but certainly into next season. And we'll see a more dynamic, in my opinion, Dylan Gabriel based on what he's starting to display as they get more comfortable with him running the ball. And defensively, I thought we played really good starting out and were able to, make some big plays and get some big stops. You'd obviously like to see us be a little bit more stout down the stretch. But overall, it's a good team victory. Special teams, we gave up the big touchdown, which you don't want to do. Those can really come back to hurt you. That gave Tulane a lot of momentum. But I thought for the way that we played on the road this season, and certainly how we played on the road 2 weeks ago against Tulsa, I feel really good with coming away with a victory. I think that the score probably doesn't give you a good example of, how the game went because they made it close there at the end. And anytime you can get a win on the road, and for our fan base, certainly in New Orleans, it's overall a good weekend.
All right, so we talked earlier this morning on Knightline the morning after about how Dylan basically is an 18-year-old kid. And I read off some stuff that was in the UCF game notes, and I kind of want to do that again and just get your reaction. Dylan Gabriel threw a touchdown for the 11th straight game to start his career. He now has 25 touchdowns on the season, which is tied for sixth most in a single season at UCF. Gabriel also rushed for a season-high 58 yards on the ground. We kind of talked about that already. He finished with 317 yards passing, his fourth 300-yard game of the season, which is tied for the sixth most in a season by any UCF quarterback. He eclipsed the 3,000 mark for the season, currently ranking fifth in most passing yards in a season at UCF with 3,123 yards, and he's an 18-year-old kid freshman.
I think that, that's a good way to take a step back and don't get too lost in the ups and downs of the season that we've seen with Dylan, but really get a good snapshot of how productive he's been. He obviously has playmakers around him, but we've asked a lot of Dylan and asked him to win football games for us. And, at 18 years old, and I don't want to, really overemphasize that too much, but I just think it goes to show how much potential is in front of us, not only for Dylan specifically, but as a program. When a guy like this is at the helm, I think his time with Coach Heupel and with Coach Lebby, in the off season, I think everybody will get a little bit more used to each other, and everybody will be better going into next season. But you throw those stats out there, UCF's had some big time passers over the years. And to be up there in the top 5 or 6 with those guys as a freshman, I think says a lot. And again, he's done some things this year that he's going to learn from. I think that we would expect some freshman mistakes, and we've seen those along the way. And you got to be able to kind of take those, learn from them, and move forward. And that sounds cliche, but if you look at them in a negative light, they're just going to eat at you. But if you can find out ways to spin it into a positive, especially at this age, you're only going to be better for it. So, there's going to be some interesting dynamics with, the recovery of Mackenzie and those sorts of things. But I feel very, very, very good with where this program sits today at the quarterback position, especially for the next 2 to 3 seasons.
Well, they talk about the sophomore slump. I think maybe more in the NFL than college football, really, but what do you do to avoid that, since everybody, has tape on you now and they know what you're going to do and all that stuff? How do you avoid the sophomore slump?
I go ask Mackenzie Milton what he did. If I was feeling,
that's true.
I go right over to my buddy and say, "Hey, how do I approach this?" Because whatever he did, absolutely worked. Listen, I don't think there's any secret sauce or secret dynamic to avoiding something, that we use as we define that with language or as a term. But what does sophomore slump actually mean? I have no idea. But I'm confident that when you start off as strong as Dylan has started off. He's a guy that I don't think we'll see, based on the way that he prepares and, the person that he seems to be. I don't think we'll see anything that has to do with a sophomore slump. I think there will be some question about, who's around him, who's catching his passes, who's blocking for him. Those are some things that Dylan can't control that may lead to some difficulties next season. But I don't think when it comes to Dylan specifically that we're going to see a step back at all.
Looking at some more statistics and some positives, one positive, no turnovers. Another positive, no sacks given up. But I think when you talk about Dylan Gabriel being your leading rusher, it again drives us back to the challenges we've had along the offensive line. What did you see in that part of the game?
Well, I still think that part of it is schematics. I still think that, I'm going to say it. I've said it every week that in certain types of plays that we run, it puts the offensive line at a disadvantage, not knowing if it's going to be truly a run or truly a pass. We obviously threw the ball 46 times yesterday, I think, or something like that. So for them not to give up a sack is probably, we should highlight that more than just kind of acknowledging it, because there were a lot of passes, and that makes it more difficult for that line. But listen, our rushing game's been up and down. It's been inconsistent. I thought if you could hang your hat on something throughout the course of the season, it was going to be the running game. And I don't really have the answers for that, but I think some of it starts with the offensive line without a doubt. Some of it is scheme. And then we've had some guys that have been banged up throughout the course of the year. I don't know how healthy Greg is. I don't know how healthy Adrian is. And so that's something that's faltered a little bit for us. But again, if you're going to not have a big rushing day by your backfield, it's nice to at least get close to 60 out of Dylan.
As the season has progressed, we talked about wanting to see Dylan move more, run more. We saw more of that this game. We also talked about diversifying the offense by inserting Darryl Mack into it, and we saw some more of Darryl Mack. It seemed like the things we've been talking about, we started to see a little bit more of those things in this game.
We did, and you got to give DJ a lot of credit because that touchdown pass that he threw, that linebacker came off the edge really, really quickly. I noticed that he saw him and then spun out and just had 2 or 3 steps to find his target and get rid of the ball. That was a really athletic and really headsy play by DJ, and I believe that was on 4th down. So, that was a big, big play in the football game that he was able to make for us. I don't know if what I'm about to say is reality at all, but next year, depending on whether McKenzie's healthy, you're not going to have Brandon Wimbush around the program. You need to make DJ, in my opinion, feel pretty good about being at UCF. I know that at the end of the day, those guys are competitors and they're going to want opportunities to play. And let's face it, when you're his age and you're looking at a true freshman quarterback putting up all the numbers that we just said he's doing, it's hard to figure out how you're going to find yourself in a starting role barring any type of injury moving forward. And as a competitor, you may want to look for a better situation. So it's good to see him out there so that he understands he's still a part of this team. I understand that he's very active on the sidelines as far as being a really good teammate. But it's nice to see him at least get some recognition, because whether or not he decides to stay or go, could be interesting going into next season with where our quarterback room is.
Looking through the stats here, I see that Marlon Williams was the leader in receiving for us with 119 yards, 9 catches for 119 and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that? This is somebody that we've wanted to see get more involved, and it looks like they involved him a little bit more here.
I think we're starting to see him get more and more involved. I think he's really deadly in the slot receiver position. Number one, he's a phenomenal blocker. If you saw him blocking for Otis Anderson alongside Gabe Davis, they really allowed Otis to spring down the sideline for a touchdown. And he's very physical, so you like having him in the game for those reasons. Secondly, he's elusive. He's kind of slippery, so he catches the football. It's really hard to bring him down. He almost turns into a really well-built running back once he has the ball in his hand, based on how he's built. So I think Marlon is a guy, certainly next season, we're going to highlight. I've thought throughout the course of this season we needed to find ways to get him the football. We've had tight ends kind of rotate into those slot positions from time to time, but I think Marlon's a guy that needs to continue to stay in the lineup. He's electric. We saw him catch a phenomenal corner route for a touchdown a couple weeks ago at home, where he kind of 180'd all the way back around and made the catch. So I was happy to see him continue to progress, because he's definitely going to have to be a guy we rely on going into the 2020 season.
One of the things that surprised me throughout the season is how few turnovers the defense has created, where in the last 2 years, UCF has been very much on the plus side of the turnover equation. Is it just something that evens out? I mean, there are playmakers on the defensive side of the ball, but they're just not picking the ball off or stripping balls like we'd seen the last 2 seasons.
I mean, turnovers are luck and skill, right? From a defensive perspective, I mean, a lot of it is somebody else doing something wrong for them to be in position to make interceptions. So, yeah, I think it's hard to pick out a rhyme or reason behind it, Trace, to be honest with you. Maybe we were able to strip the ball a little bit better in the future. Maybe we were in position to make better, larger impacts that jarred the ball loose in the past. I'm not really sure. I'd probably just be, really guessing rather than giving any type of educated answer about it, because I think it is one of those, what you just said, kind of a give and take. Some seasons you're going to see more of that, and this is a season where we certainly had football games that we were on the wrong side of the turnover ratio, not only because we had a lot of turnovers ourselves, 4 and 5 in some cases, but really none or 1 or 2 turnovers by the defense in those games. And so if you think about it, the turnovers that we've had this season are a lot of ill-advised, a couple of ill-advised interceptions. And those aren't, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati didn't particularly do anything special to earn those interceptions, in my opinion. Maybe one good play that the guy took back for a pick 6, but I don't know if there's any rhyme or reason.
So up 24-17, you mentioned the Darryl Mack 2-yard touchdown pass. Anthony Roberson with his first ever catch. It turns out to be a touchdown. A gutsy call there, though. When I said that on Twitter, some criticized, saying, well, that's what you need to do in that situation. I think up 7, you could make the argument to kick a field goal. Dylan Barnes has only missed 1 all year. He'd be up 10. So I have to give credit to coaching staff for going for it there and extending the lead out to 2 touchdowns.
Well, I think we kind of needed to figure out how to get up 2 touchdowns. It kind of felt like, in that type of environment, Tulane's played well at home and played well close late in games at home. 10 points any other year, may have felt okay, but this season 10 points just didn't feel really good. So obviously if you don't convert there, you're forcing Tulane to go 98 yards the other way to score on you. And so you have an advantage, but give credit to Coach Heupel. The scheme, the design, the way that play was designed worked really, really well. And I think that Tulane probably did everything that they wanted to do on that play, which was get a free rusher off the edge, and DJ Mack just used his athleticism to make a play there. And so give him credit for pulling that off, because it was much harder than maybe it looked to the naked eye, and give Coach Heupel credit for the design of the play, and then having the guts to call it right there.
All right, let's talk about the defense a little bit. Reading the notes again that UCF puts out, the defense shut out Tulane in the first quarter, which was great. 7 points allowed in the first half to Tulane was the least amount of points for an opponent since holding ECU to 6 on October 19th. Just talk about the difficulty they have, number one, getting on the field or staying on the field for so long. It's no wonder that we kind of give up some points later on in the game just because they're out there for so long. Sometimes it takes 6 seconds for us to score.
Well, that's the dynamic that you constantly have to work around with our style of offense. Is we're dangerous when we go 3 and out. That defense has like a 1 and 50-second break, 2-minute break. I mean, literally, think about it. We snap it on first down. If you don't get any yards, you get back up. You snap it within 14 seconds to play 7 seconds. That's 21 seconds. You get up there again. You do that one more time. That's 42 seconds. And you punt. And then you jog off the field. Maybe there's a TV timeout. Maybe there isn't. It's like 4 or 5 minutes, and the defense is back out there if our offense isn't moving the football. And over the course of the game, even when we have 7, 8, 9 play drives, the time really isn't that long. And I think that's where you see a team like Tulane really just wear guys out. I think a little bit of it was a bit of complacency, up 17 going into the fourth quarter. But yes, it's a challenge for defense. I think statistically it's always going to be a little bit skewed. I don't think we're ever going to see the statistic defenses that we saw in the George O'Leary era ever again at UCF, because we played such a ball possession game and really tried to eliminate the other team winning the time of possession. We've probably lost the time of possession more than not over the course of the last 3 years, and still won a majority of those football games. And so that puts a lot of extra pressure on the defense. And certainly just from a stamina perspective, it wears them out. And so you probably saw a little bit of that on Saturday, certainly there late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and that's what some of this garbage time stuff, where they score in the end, kind of makes it look weird with the score. I mean, this was not a 3-point win. I mean, we really, did a lot better than that. One of the things that is kind of flying under the radar, UCF has led the nation with 9.4 tackles per loss per game. Yeah. That's a lot. And then they came out against Tulane at the end of it with 9. So, I mean, those are really, really good numbers as far as that stuff's going.
That is both effort and scheme. Our defensive line, we don't have the biggest and heaviest guys along our front in college football, but we have very active guys. We have players that continuously push until the echo of the whistle, and we have great scheme with stunts and games up front that really look like from time to time we're definitely confusing opposing teams' offensive lines about who they're supposed to have and pick up. And when you can run a twist game with a bunch of guys that are fast and have high motors, you're going to get into the backfield. Now, whether or not a running back's able to kind of break through or have some vision and work underneath a stunt and get to the second level, that's going to happen from time to time. But when you're getting 9 tackles for loss per game, that means you're getting a lot of penetration. And with a defensive line that's just not overly stout from a weight perspective, it's clear that our speed and our motors are helping us get home. And that's a big number. That's a really big number for tackles for loss per game. And that goes to show that we do have a defense that is able to play on the other side of the football. But that's sometimes why, the course of the games, they're on the field a lot, and teams get opportunities to make plays once in a while.
My turn to throw out some stats. 5, that's first downs. 3 out of 15, that's third down efficiency. 44, that's passing yards. I'm talking about the Cows from their 49-10 defeat to Memphis. 170 total yards in the game. This is on senior night in Tampa. Their quarterback, I think he was 5 of 14 for 45 yards. Still, it is a rivalry game. There's a trophy on the line, the war on I-4. From your experience, no matter the differential in the teams, there's still a little extra juice in a rivalry game.
I thought you were going to say 170 total fans in the stands.
That's about true as well.
Just to show you how well they tell the truth over there, they announced 25,136, and the only number I'm willing to agree with them on is the 136.
Yeah, that is delusional to throw those numbers out. Nonetheless, it is a rivalry game, yes, and there's not as much on the line this year as there have been certainly in the last 2 seasons. And I think, rather than talking about, how USF, where they stack up in this with us this season, I think that they're a good example of how far a program can fall and how quickly it can happen. You have a quarterback and Flowers and some playmakers there only 2 years ago. And they were a program that was a 9 or 10 win team and certainly had an opportunity to kind of trade places with us in 2017. So I think that UCF, we should win this game. We should dominate this game. We're the better team. We have the better coaching staff. We have all the momentum. We have every reason to believe that we should go out and dominate them. But let's use this as an example to remember that if you want to look at a program that has a coaching issue, if you want to look at a program that's really struggling, if you want to look at a program that people should wake up on Sunday and feel really, really terrible about where their program is, it's not us. It's USF. And it's happened very, very quickly because all of us witnessed how good that team was just 2 short seasons ago. So I hope that we pack the place out. I really am one of those believers that you can throw a lot of stuff out in rivalry games because there is just another level, of cognitive level that players go to get themselves up for these games. And the same is with the coaching staffs as well. So I think it's going to be a tough battle. It's going to be a physical battle. USF's going to give us their best shot, and they have been in some games this year that they didn't come out on the winning side of. But I'm looking forward to an electric atmosphere at 8 o'clock on national television. But yes, remember, you can go from the penthouse to the doghouse very quickly if you don't have the right people in place. And luckily with Coach Heupel, we didn't drop to the doghouse after Coach Frost left. And unfortunately for Charlie Strong, he loses Quentin Flowers and a few other guys, and it's gone the wrong direction for them.
All righty. Hey, the holidays are coming up this week. What's going on at the Little Greek for the holidays?
Well, we've got a lot of catering specials at all of our locations right now. So if you're looking to do, catering for the office or catering for a house party or a holiday party, we'd be more than happy to, quote one of those out for you. You can actually order catering online at littlegreekfreshgrill.com and just select the location. We also have a lentil soup and feta cheese sticks right now that we have going on as a special lentil soup. Although I wasn't a huge fan of lentils myself, our soup is delicious and certainly goes along with the feta bites. So been a wonderful year. Still looking to open the Apopka location. We're going to push that into the 3rd week of 2020. But it's been a great 2019 and certainly appreciate the support. I've talked to a number of listeners of the podcast lately that have gotten a little bit more comfortable coming up to me and saying they like to talk a little bit of football. So I always enjoy that and appreciate everything you guys have done for Little Greek as well.
Awesome. Well, no problem there. Thank you for what you've done as well. So, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk to you on Friday, I'm sure, and then we'll talk to you again on Sunday.
Yes, sir. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys, and go Knights.
At Fat Beaker on Twitter. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I know him well.
Has posted a poll. Will they need to separate Libby and Trace? We need a poll.
Oh, boy.
Who's this person?
That is my husband.
Oh.
What is this with Fat Beaker?
Okay, so one time we dressed up, our whole family dressed up as the Inside Out people. Do you know the movie Inside Out?
No.
It's from the Disney Pixar with the emotions. And so he was the angry emotion or whatever, and somebody thought he was Beaker.
Oh, okay. Now I get it.
And he said, I'm a little too fat to be Beaker, because Beaker's that skinny little puppet or muppet or whatever.
I
So
like
that's
that.
he likes to have funny names like that.
It's a great profile picture.
Yes,
great.
that was him dressed up on the Disney cruise as that character.
Okay.
So yeah,
I see.
How has this developed, though? At Big Social 32 is Ben Stout, who writes, hopefully AP_Knightline, that would be Andrew, doesn't have to separate you and Trace tonight. How has this gotten to be a thing?
I have no idea. I think people don't understand that we are just playing around and having a good time, and that it's like a brother-sister playful,
it is
silly relationship that
Most
we like
of the
to.
Unless you cross the line, which
I
happens
never cross the
three to
line.
5 times
Never.
a week.
You're probably the one that's going to wind up getting me killed because, I got death threats from the one thing I said to you. And, I mean,
No, Trace
if I wind up
loves to stir the
dying
pot.
because of
No,
Libby, I'm going to be upset.
No.
I'm never riding with you in a car. There's all kinds of things.
I don't think it's fair that you think I start things.
You do start things
You instigate.
Oh, here we
Never,
go.
you
make, hey, kids.
You make
Kids?
fun. How many times have you compared me to a Muppet?
Well, can I just say, though, that you are a little high-strung?
Oh, here we go.
You guys are the perfect odd couple.
Oh, here
and
we
that's
go
why
again.
the show works so well.
And
that's
I'm
why I love
the
it.
mellow one.
You're
Here we
the
go.
mellow one.
I'm the mellow
You're
one.
totally
Yeah.
the mellow one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All
Yes.
right.
This is completely reversed.
But he does. But Andrew, he doesn't stir the pot when he says, "Oh, when I see you on Black Friday, you'll be drunk." I'm like,
well, you
what?
will, right?
No,
you're coming to my tailgate.
Well, I'm coming to your tailgate definitely, and I am going to tailgate and enjoy myself. But I don't want to be drunk
You're
at
gonna
the
be
game.
drunk.
I
You're
don't
gonna
want to be drunk.
If you make it
no.
into the stadium, you'll be lucky.
Yeah, whatever.
When you say things like you would rescue sharks from the beach, I think you're drinking.
No,
Do you
I
understand
love
that I think you're
animals.
drinking?
No, I
Okay.
love animals.
None of these people want to hear
No.
this.
All
They
right.
can tune into
No.
Twitter for this. See, I am separating them.
Okay.
The poll was correct.
We'll be
There
quiet.
you go. I had to separate them. All right. You two kids, shut up in the back.
Let's get back to bowl projections.
Yes. Okay.
The best one of the week is from Yahoo, UCF Florida State in the Gasparilla Bowl.
I love it.
And the up-to-date ones include CBSSports.com, UCF Arkansas State still in the Cure Bowl, collegefootballnews.com, Knights Western Kentucky and Gasparilla, 24/7 Sports has that as well. My favorite, the Action Network, the gambling site, has the Knights. Now Kansas State in the Liberty, not Iowa State, but Kansas State. Sporting News has UCF Army in the Military Bowl. That one I think is a bit odd. Orlando Sentinel has UCF versus Toledo in the Boca Bowl. ESPN.com out with 2. Here's one that's interesting. UCF versus Miami in the Military Bowl.
Miami's not bowl eligible, are they?
Yeah, they're bowl eligible.
After getting beat by FAU or FIU?
Isn't that tremendous? I love every moment of that. And,
that's for Norman Clark.
And another ESPN one has Marshall and UCF in the Frisco Bowl. So I think we like the Florida State one. For most fans, can get to
That
Tampa.
would be incredible. And then, this Kansas State one would be interesting. I would love to root against them. So that would be wonderful.
So at Free Sport Travel, in the Ask Knightline segment, said, can you explain how the AAC bowl selection process works? Which bowl gets first pick? Do you think bowl committee talk to other bowl committees? Can teams decline, hold out for another bowl? So rather than guess this, I emailed Sunday morning Chuck Sullivan, communications director for the league, who wrote back very quickly and said, thanks for checking. Basically, since this current bowl cycle began, he writes, the process is far less structured than it used to be when bowls made the selections themselves. If the AAC champ is in the Cotton Bowl this year, we would then place our eligible teams into bowls based on the school's preferences, the attractiveness of matchups, the opponent, avoiding repeat matchups, and geography with a goal to produce the most sensible assignments conference-wide. If our champion does not get chosen for the Cotton, the team would have priority when it comes to bowl placement, so the whole process essentially plays out during the course of the Sunday following the championship game.
Okay. Well, that's good information. Thank you very much for Chuck Sullivan from The American.
And he mentions the Liberty here. There are some bowls, Liberty and Independence, who have tie-ins with SEC and others. Then those leagues may not fill all of their slots. That's why UCF's coming. And when we talk about Tulane and the way Night Nation traveled, that is attractive to maybe a Liberty Bowl in Memphis. I think there are some of these bowls, let's just be honest, I don't know that our fans, even if it is an SEC matchup, want to go to Birmingham, Alabama on January 2nd.
No.
Right.
But New Year's Eve on Beale Street in Memphis against Kansas State or Iowa State, I think if you're talking about maybe a 9-3 season, that feels a little bit better as a bowl destination.
But if there is any chance, I don't care if you play this game at Sunday morning at 3 o'clock. To play if we have the chance to play FSU in this Gasparilla Bowl, I mean, that just makes sense to me. We've been clamoring to play these in-state teams, and it would just make perfect sense. Yes, there would be a lot of FSU fans there, but there's going to be a lot of UCF fans there as well. So, I mean, that could be, if they want to, I don't know if sell out a bowl game there, but really have a great crowd, put two in-state teams that really want to play each other. At least we want to play them.
Yeah, I'm not sure Florida State.
I don't know if Florida State wants to play us, but their fans that I know, the friends of mine, are all for it. They'd love to see it happen. So I'd love to see it happen too.
So thanks at Free Sport Travel for your question. Thanks to Chuck Sullivan with the league for responding quickly. And this changes week to week. What we do know now, though, as a result of Cincinnati beating Temple, is that Cincinnati has clinched the East, and whatever slim sliver of hope UCF had is now out of that. So, look for the best bowl matchup and bowl opportunity for the postseason.
It is what it is. I mean, we had a couple really good years, and we'll get back there. Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley reminding you to tune in every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando for Knightline the morning after. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action. Once again, that's Knightline the morning after, every Sunday morning, 9 to 10 a.m. on ESPN 580 Orlando or TuneIn Radio. Go Knights and charge on.
Time now to take a look around the American. 19th-ranked Cincinnati locks down the East Division, surviving another close battle as they beat Temple 15-13. The winning margin coming with Kobe Bryant's 98-yard return of a blocked extra point for a defensive two-point conversion. Cincinnati will face Memphis next week for the chance to host the conference championship game. Brady White threw for 222 yards and 2 touchdowns, speaking of the Tigers, as they shrugged off 2 early turnovers to beat South Florida 49-10 to retain a share of first place in the AAC West. Navy quarterback Malcolm Perry generated 357 yards of total offense and scored the game-winning touchdown in a 35-28 victory over number 25 SMU. Holton Ahlers scored on a 2-yard run with 3:31 remaining as East Carolina rallied to a 31-24 victory over Connecticut, and Houston downed Tulsa 24-14. Marquez Stevenson had a 94-yard kickoff return for 6 in that one. I'm Jeff Allen. We'll recap the weekend in football, including my nickel's worth on UCF's 34-31 win at Tulane because 2 cents is not enough, as well as men's and women's soccer, volleyball, and men's and women's basketball. All that and more in this week's AAC report only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Back to the trip to New Orleans, I mentioned earlier, had an opportunity to go to Saints practice and visit in the post-practice locker room with Teddy Bridgewater, as well former UCF running back Latavius Murray. He was in the news this week because he finally got to meet one of his childhood idols, basketball player Carmelo Anthony, who was playing against the New Orleans Pelicans, and Latavius went to the game. So I spoke with Latavius about Carmelo Anthony, the Knights' deep running back room, and how Latavius might match up against Adrian Killens.
You've been in the news a little bit this week. Mm-hmm. How's it felt soaking in this Carmelo Anthony experience?
It felt good. Again, for me, I'm just a kid who grew up a fan, and I think it was
I'm sure a special moment for him, a special moment for the game. One of the greatest scorers to ever play the game. Obviously, not arguably the greatest player to come through Syracuse. Obviously, one and done, and winning the national championship. So yeah, again, for a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid growing up, or that grew up in Syracuse, Melo is a very, very popular person to us.
Have you had that impact on a young kid who's gotten to meet you?
You saying that, man, it's. I'm sure maybe that is the case, right? But I guess I never really thought of it that way, which is pretty impactful, I guess, when I think about it, because I know exactly how I view, Carmelo, and how cool it was for him to come and bring the city a championship. So it kind of makes those kind of things seem a bit closer to you, right? Like you're able to do it, you're able to accomplish it, you want to accomplish it, you want to be a part of something when you get older, something that he did. So so if I'm able to give some kid back home that kind of feeling, that kind of hope, then it's all the more reason for me to go out there and really represent and do what I do.
You remain a fan favorite of Knight Nation, and they enjoy watching your professional journey. What has it been like to be a part of the Saints organization?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been absolutely great. We have a great locker room, a great team. Obviously we've done some good things up until this point. So for this team, this fan base to accept me, come in here and accept me, it's made it a very, very fun experience for me here. And obviously, as for Knight Nation, I mean that's that's my alma mater at the end of the day, and that's my alma mater at the end of the day. And so I always represent them when I'm on and off the field. I always represent them.
Good to have Trylko in the locker room as well.
Definitely. It's funny how things may shake out. Obviously I didn't play with Trylko when he was at UCF. He came after me. But now that for us to be teammates, be on the same side of the ball, go back to the school together during our bye week, all that, it's just special. It's just special. I think football does things like that. It brings people together, people from all over the world, right? That's the special thing about this game.
Can you talk about just how much UCF has transformed since your playing days, the growth of the campus, the athletic facilities? It's a big difference from just a few years ago when you were there.
It's a huge difference from before I was there, and huge difference now since I've left. And I think that's what it's about. I think everybody who had the opportunity to go to UCF to play sports or just go, period, to attend school, I think they went there, I would hope. I know for me, I went there with a vision in mind of being a part of something special, being a part of history. And I did this, that, and I think, now seeing, the transformation just makes you feel good, makes you, feel, have some type of confirmation that, everything that you envisioned that would happen is happening and continuing to happen when I decided to go there.
What do you think about that running back room now?
Yeah, it's special. Whole lot of speed. Dangerous running back group. I deeply, truly believe that is the best running back corps in college football. I mean, there's no doubt about it, to be honest. Actually, it's not even a question. But they're obviously very, very talented group of backs, but they're really good guys, and I was there in the off season working out and training with them, and that I think that obviously means more than what they're able to do on the field. The fact that they're better guys off the field, work hard, extremely hard, and they get along with each other. That's hard to find, for guys, especially in one room. And so I think it's special for sure.
And you proved to be a bit of a role model for them as well. They see what you have accomplished in your career.
Yeah. For me, I just try to stay true to who I am. Try to work hard, and just try to go out there and represent and everything that I've done and everything that I've where I've come from in life in general. Feel it's my purpose, man. To go out there, represent, go out there and play hard. And have fun. And have fun.
You mentioned the speed of that room. Mm-hmm. If you were in that room with them, around their age, how would you? Yeah, around their age.
See,
not now. Not comparing you now, but around that age.
See, I messed with them. I told them. I said, y'all younger than me, and you're smaller than me too. So, but around my age, just because. I think just if you're looking at the size, they probably got the notch. They're smaller, quicker, faster backs. But I don't know though. I like to think though, if I got a nice distant, 100-yard run, I might can get one or two of them for sure.
What about Adrian Tillman's? Would you be
AK? That'd be tough. I'd be lying if I said I can get AK. I'd be lying.
So a couple of setbacks this season, but they've had an incredible run going into this season with a winning streak. You think the foundation is there just to continue to grow the program?
Definitely just continue to grow. One thing I think they got to really realize is it's hard to win at any level. Winning is it's hard to do because it sounds cliche, but if it was easy, everybody would do it. Winning is hard to do. And what they did the past few years is unheard of, right? It's unheard of. So you face adversity, losing, and it's all about how you respond. So I just think if they understand that hey, it's really hard to go undefeated 3 years in a row in the regular season, right? That's what it was going to be.
And then 3 games by a total of 7 points.
Exactly. And right, so even still this year, you haven't lost by a huge margin, but that goes to show how hard it is to win. That goes to show, hey, maybe that could have been the same thing last year, but you found a way to win those games. It's hard. It's hard to do consistently. So they have all the talent, everything they need. Just keep believing.
Rivalry week coming up. They've got the game with Tulane, but then that school from Tampa comes to town.
That school from Tampa, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about them?
Well, like you said, I always get bothered when people say when they mistake us for South Florida. That's just me personally. So this game has always been a special one for, I think, for UCF fans in general. For the team, we know that. But the war on I-4, there's nothing better than proving, in that small radius, who's the better team. And so that'll be an exciting time. I hope to make it for that, which we'll be playing Thanksgiving night and should have the day off.
Yeah, and the game's Friday night at 8.
Yeah.
All right, what do you think? Latavius Murray, Adrian Killens. Who you got? Who you got in the race?
Probably Adrian.
Yeah. He had a little fun with that question, though. So, nice guy. And we'll have Knights in the Pros coming up. He had a pretty good Sunday for the Saints as well, as did Traquan Smith. So, it was a really good weekend all around for UCF.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At my checkmark PLE1 wrote, enjoy hearing you referencing Ben Stout on UCF Knightline, giving your takes on the games and how you see things progressing. Great to be able to hear from former players of the program. So a little shout out to Ben. And men's basketball gets the 1-point home win. We are talking about it with Ben Stout coming up, plus AAC Commissioner Mike Aresco, only on Knightline number 212.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out The Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
Oviedo Brewing Company is the hottest microbrewery in Central Florida. Located 7 miles from UCF at the Oviedo Mall, this 8,800 square foot brewery just opened its doors 6 months ago and has already crafted 13 unique beer flavors and counting in their tap room. The tap room contains different styles of beverages, including ciders, wines, and craft sodas. Not only do they have amazing beers, they also have a full kitchen with gourmet pizzas, wings, and tacos. Oviedo Brewing has activities for each day of the week, such as Taco Tuesdays, Trivia Wednesdays, Pizza and Pint on Thursdays, plus live music on Friday and Saturday evening. But the best is Sunday brunch with unlimited beer mimosas. Need a spot for game day? Oviedo Brewing is just the place with their large TVs to catch all the live games. You will also find Oviedo Brewing at UCF tailgating sampling beers. And OBC support for the Knights doesn't stop there. If you need a spot for UCF away games, come to Oviedo Brewing Company, where the Knightline sports crew will be broadcasting live after the game. You can get all the details on their Instagram or Facebook page. Follow them at Oviedo Brewing CO. Download the Untapped app, and you can find out what beers are on tap. The food menu is also available on their website, OviedoBrewingCO.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Knightline's own 7-footer, Ben Big Social Stout, and Inside the Paint.
Just one men's basketball game to talk about this week. Saturday, UCF trailed early and by a lot, but kept battling. Colin Smith hit a pair of free throws in the waning seconds for the win. Final, UCF 72, Charleston 71. UCF moves to 3-1. Let's talk about it with former UCF men's basketball player Ben Stout. He is in the paint. He is also on the Knightline hotline. I know you are a big fan of Colin Smith.
Yes, absolutely. I'm certainly becoming even bigger fan this season. He absolutely had a great game yesterday. I think he's really embraced his role as the number one option this year with the seniors that moved out last year and him being the fourth option last year. He's stepped up. He's known he's going to be the man that the entire team is looking to lead them in a lot of different categories and lead them on the floor. And I think that we're going to go probably about as far as Colin Smith takes us this year. And I'm just it's just exciting to see him mature as an athlete on the floor and step up and step into that number one option role. And yesterday was fantastic. I mean, I think in every part of his game yesterday, he helped us tremendously and helped us to victory. Not only his scoring ability that he has just offensively, he's got such a smooth game, but made some great passes, whether it be out of the post or the backdoor cuts to Frank Burtz and others. But he played great on defense as well. He had 2 charges, probably could have gotten another one if the call went his way. And so his all-around game this year has been on display in the first 4 games of the season, and I think he hasn't even come close to his ceiling yet. So it's great to see that out of Colin.
The statistic that stood out the most to me was 21 of 26 from the free throw line, 81%. For as long as I can remember, it seems like UCF has struggled from the free throw line. One game does not make a trend, but boy, wouldn't it be nice if you could hit free throws with at a good clip. Because look, in a 1-point game, if they had done what maybe they had typically done, they lose this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that we've talked about over the course of months that we've been talking about UCF basketball going back to last year is certainly free throw percentage was an issue, but also at certain times when we struggled, whether it be this season or last season, we weren't getting on the line enough. And one of the encouraging statistics that I saw yesterday in regards to free throw shooting was, of course, the 80% from the line from our team was fantastic, but we were really solid on defense, made sure that we didn't foul them much. They only went to the line of 12 times. We went to the line 26 times. They came in the game as one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country, that them being College of Charleston. And we came in as one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country percentage-wise. And so it was great that both Colin Smith and Dazon Ingram in particular were being very aggressive and driving the lane as they need to. We really need them to do that, to be aggressive. And once they were getting to the line, they were stepping up and knocking them down. And so, man, we really needed it yesterday. It could be the difference in the game in many games like this, but certainly it was the difference yesterday when it's a 1-point game and, we shoot 80% from the line. So
as we've been talking about getting to know more about these guys, what do we have in Dre Fuller Jr. that you like?
Well, we've got a lot of height at the guard position in general, with Dazon Ingram being 6'6" and a number of others. But Dre Fuller is definitely in that category, and he's a 6'5", super athletic, long guy that plays the guard position. That he got his chance yesterday to step into and make a name for himself in this rotation, and I think he took advantage of that chance in a very big way for us. He provided a huge spark off the bench right away in the first half, and I think he had a great coming out party yesterday. He got rebounds, he pushed the tempo right away, he attacked the basket as soon as he got in the game. He was able to knock down a three from the top of the key in the first half with about 50 seconds left that tied the game. And so I think he's a really smooth player with the basketball, and with his length and athleticism, he's already showing that he's great defensively. But on the offensive end with the ball in his hands, one of the most impressive things that I think he does well is he changes speeds and changes directions really quickly. You saw a lot of hesitation crossovers where he was able to get away from his guy and get into the paint and score. Yesterday, that was really encouraging to see. So it was good to see yet another person in this lineup that hadn't played much or hadn't shown much in those first 3 games of the season step up and show the depth that this team has and the recruiting that Johnny Dawkins has been able to accomplish over the last couple of years that he's been here. So it's encouraging to see the depth and the different lineups that Dawkins can play at any given time to take advantage of certain matchups. And Dre Fuller was able to step up yesterday. We saw Avery Diggs last game be that person to step up, and who knows who it's going to be moving forward. But it's exciting that we have that depth.
Being honest, I really didn't have an idea of what we would see in these first couple of games. I did think, and we spoke about this, that there'd be some ups, there'd be some downs, but there was something here about this team that you could enjoy, that you could have some fun with. But I'll tell you, I would have never put them at 3-1 after 4 games. So you've got to be encouraged by the start they've had. All very close games, relatively speaking.
Yes, I mean, it is extremely encouraging to see our record at this point. I think this is the 3rd time in the last 4 years that we started this season 3-1, but you wouldn't have necessarily put us at 3-1 knowing the opponents that we started out this season with. And so the amount of fight, as I've talked about in the past, the amount of fight that this team displays on any given night, no matter what, if they get down by 10 points, which, I don't know if it quite happened this game, but it certainly happened last game. They get down by a large number of points. They never seem to lose confidence in themselves and confidence in their teammates. They know that they're going to be sound defensively. They know they're going to try their hardest and hustle after every loose ball, and they're going to chip away at any lead that is taken upon them. So it's extremely exciting. You certainly are seeing some growing pains going through. This team is going through, and some chemistry that they're trying to form. But you certainly would. Those little mistakes or little chemistry issues that you might have, you certainly want to work those out in a win versus a loss. So it's great to see that they've started out the season the way they have, and hopefully they can carry that momentum moving forward for sure.
All right, so this is an interesting week. A couple of days off before they head west to Anaheim, California for the Wooden Legacy Tournament. They open against Pennsylvania. Then they take on either Arizona or Pepperdine in the second round action. And other schools in this field are Long Beach State, Wake Forest, Providence, Charleston. So, these are really good basketball teams they're going to face. What are you hoping to achieve? What do you want to see them achieve on this road trip?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that this is an opportunity for them to get on the road for a decent stretch here. It's that tournament feel in the early season, so you certainly want to kind of continue to see the progression from a chemistry standpoint and finding those mismatches that we can use or utilize under the different lineups that Dawkins can put out there. But I'm excited that they're going to start out with Pennsylvania. That's another school that you might look at the name and say, oh, well, I don't know much about them, but they are another mid-major school that has been able to beat a couple of good teams this year already. They've got a good record. They, throughout the years, have been pretty strong. And so the opportunity to play them and play well and hopefully win that game, and then you get the major opportunity, which will more than likely be your top 15 team in Arizona, and that'll obviously be a huge challenge on Friday night if they're able to earn that challenge. But I think the amount of fight that you see in this team and the progression that they've shown in this early season, it'll be great to get out there. They'll be kind of with each other for the week and kind of away from campus, away from their friends and all that, and just kind of be together and develop that even further chemistry on and off the court. And so hopefully we see some positive things out of UCF in this upcoming tournament, which will have some real challenges for them.
Well, let's end on this note. It is, of course, Hate the Cows week, the big football game coming up on Black Friday. For you, high school, who is your biggest rival?
In high school, I went to Dr. Phillips High School in Orlando, and at that time wasn't as many high schools as there are now, and so West Orange was our biggest rival at that time. So playing against West Orange was always a game that we got up for, and in basketball, and then also just because they were so good, and we both had good teams. Edgewater was another one that we got up for as well.
Gotcha. At Big Social 32 on Twitter. Follow Ben Stout. And Ben joins us every week on Knightline. Ben, great talking with you again.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys, and charge on.
Go Knights.
All right. Good to hear from Ben. Knights in the pros. Got a lot of stuff going on. Right now, we are watching the Grey Cup, which is the Canadian football Super Bowl, basically. Winnipeg is up 27-12 over Hamilton, Ontario, and the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Brandon Alexander, former Knight, plays for the Blue Bombers, Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and they are up, like I said, 27-12. He had an interception in the beginning of the game, which was really cool, like the second play or something like that. Back to the NFL, Latavius Murray, 7 carries for 64 yards and a touchdown. One of the first plays in that game as well, it was a touchdown by him, a good run. Jordan Akins for the Texans, 3 receptions for 26 yards. Shaquem Griffin, today, they're playing him in Seattle as a kind of weird hybrid linebacker and / defensive end. They're rushing him around the end, which we all know that he's very good at that. He had 1 tackle today, and it was a forced fumble. And that kind of bounced around and went all the way down to like the 3-yard line or something, and he actually picked it up at one point and carried it and got pushed out of bounds down there. There was a penalty or something, so I'm not sure if that got called back or whatever, but really good to see him actually doing stuff and pushing a ball out there. Traquan Smith, 1 catch for 13 yards, which was a touchdown for the Saints. Matt Prater for the Lions, 3 field goals, the longest being 49. Brashad Perryman, 1 catch for 44 yards. Good catch for him. Shaquille Griffin as well, they're playing in Seattle 4 tackles. So that is your Knights in the NFL.
It's better than last week when we were like, when a guy had a field goal.
Yeah,
Prater had a field goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Besides the Black Friday football game, which is the big talk of the week, what else is on the Knightline planner? Women's basketball this week, 1 p.m. first tip with Stetson on the 27th. On the 30th, Women's Hoops plays UCLA in the Cavalier Classic in Charlottesville, Virginia. And, of course, still to be determined is whether men's soccer are going to have a home match, depending upon the outcome of the Coastal Carolina SMU game, which we'll see if it happens while we are recording. So, Libby, where are you at on Commissioner Mike Aresco? Thumb up, thumb down?
I think he's a little late to the party.
Wow.
Well, I think he is too. So
yeah.
And maybe that's the way I should have asked the question.
Well,
So, Commissioner, you a little late to the party?
You pretty much did.
So I look over and he's sitting next to me as I was sharing earlier, and then he wasn't there at halftime when there's a window to talk, and then he comes back to his seat with 2 minutes left in the third quarter. So the third quarter ends. I hop up. I post how do you grade the Knights through 3 quarters? I hop up. I go, Commissioner, can we talk for a couple minutes real quick? Oh, yeah, sure. So we go out in the hall. I have no idea how that audio sounds. We were near an elevator, near a door.
Oh, it's good, and you can hear every little. Yeah, it's good. It's good.
Can I tell you something about this press box, by the way, that you will find humorous? They accidentally locked the bathroom doors.
Shocking.
And the UCF coaches got into the elevator. When they go up in the elevator, no one else is allowed in the elevator. So I had pushed the button to go up the elevator, and then they all walked in. So the door opened. They all got in, and I waited for the next round of the elevator. Well, they had a couple of minutes. They go up just right before the game starts. So a couple of minutes. And then by the time the elevator came back down and I went back up, it's just 3 floors, right? And I see all the coaches lined up in the hall to use the restroom. It's locked. They can't get in it. Coach Lebby, not happy about this development.
I'm sure he was.
Well, they want to get into the box and get their headsets on and, all of this. So, they remedied that problem, but for a moment it was a little tense.
Those guys are some big dudes, though. Lebby's a big dude. He could have broken that door down easy. And he probably should have. That would have been a good lesson for them to have their door unlocked the next time. That was probably intentional, as far as I'm concerned.
I don't know about all
good
that.
Good way to make
psych
things,
out the coaches.
a little bit weird.
So anyway, got a chance to talk to Commissioner
Somebody
Aresco.
thought they were being funny.
So he likes to answer one question for as long as he can, and I'm trying to be respectful, but I think I cut off something he was saying at one point when he paused for a second. I'm like, okay, enough of this talking point stuff.
Good.
So yeah.
Commissioner, you've been making the rounds talking up the AAC. What's been the reason you've been doing that so vocally this past week?
Well, I think what I saw with the CFP was, again, I think a lack of respect for the league, and maybe it's not respect, maybe it's just understanding what we've done, and I felt I could point out certain statistics, certain things that clearly we've done, and maybe I could persuade, maybe I could educate. It's not a question of criticism, it's a question of here's what we've done, and if there's a double standard, it's not intentional, but maybe it's unintentional, inadvertent. I'm not going to bore you with all the different stats, but I pointed them all out. The strength of schedule, 14-1 record against the other G5, 27-1 against everybody in the non-power, the brutal non-power power schedule we play, the number of wins over the last several years, all the different things. Not only the strength of schedule matrix, but where we are in the 6 computer polls, over the 15 points ahead of the Mountain West, almost 23 points ahead of the Sun Belt. Those things should matter. And so when we've got a rugged league, I think a 2-loss team, if that happens, coming out of this league, should clearly be the top team. If we see all these 2-loss teams ahead of us over the years in the poll, and this year too, from P5 conferences, well, the only basis for that, since we play a brutal non-conference schedule, is to suggest that our strength of schedules within the conference are not that strong. And I don't buy that at all. But be that as it may, we're fighting the P5, and now we have to fight the G5 in the sense that, why can't you apply that standard to us? There shouldn't be a G5 team with 1 loss ahead of any of our 1-loss teams.
What do you think you're accomplishing by this media blitz?
I don't know. Well, I think I'm getting the media and the public on our side, and I'm getting them to pay a little attention. That's important. Sometimes all the attention's focused on the top 4, top 10. Who's going to be for musical chairs sometimes, right? And they don't pay attention to maybe the entire top 25 or to our situation, which is very important because it's a New Year's Day game. Maybe I can spark some interest in that And if the media and the public agree with me, which it seems overwhelmingly based on social media and the response I've gotten, they do, maybe that puts some pressure on the committee, because you can't lobby the committee per se, but maybe you can put some pressure on them that way to at least look at this and say, wait a minute, maybe we haven't been analyzing this conference the way we should. That's all I can do.
Do you think you may have missed an opportunity not being more vocal on UCF's cause in 2017, 2018?
No, because I was. I was. In fact, if you go back, there are headlines that Commissioner blasts the committee over UCF. I mean, I was all over it, saying they shouldn't be ranked 12. The issue with UCF was some of their fans thought that I didn't support their national championship.
Do you now?
Oh, of course. I said Collie named them the national champion. I did then.
Do you think fans were wrong to have that perception of
Not a
you,
question
that you
of
weren't being vocal enough for them?
Well, no, it had to do with the national championship afterwards. I was very vocal during the season, and I was last year. By the way, last year they climbed to 6 or 7, I think, in the polls. If the real issue there was if Mackenzie Milton hadn't gotten hurt, where would they have ended up? And you can bet I would have been just as vocal as I'm being now if they had not been in the Final Four. Once Mackenzie went down, it was a little tougher to make that argument. But two straight years of undefeated, I still made it. I still said they should have been in the playoff. They should have that opportunity. But what you've got it looks like right now is a 2-tiered system, and you got to deal with it right now.
So how does it change?
Well, I think you just keep at it. I think we keep scheduling up, and if we win those games, Houston had probably the best opportunity in 2016 when they beat an Oklahoma team that was number 3 and beat them handily, beat a Louisville team that was number 3 handily. If they had gone undefeated in the conference, that committee would have had a tough decision to make, because I think they would have had a real shot at the Final Four. The second thing is, if the playoffs should expand, I think we'd like to get at least a G5 slot. But more than that, I want to get out of the G5. And so if that deal gets negotiated or renegotiated, I want to get in there and get a contract bowl game, meaning I want a rotating slot in those 3 bowls. You've got 3 games now that are so-called host bowls. I think we deserve a slot every year. We're such a tough conference, brutal to get through our conference. It's really not fair to have to compete with 4 other conferences, and if they have an easier schedule and somebody goes undefeated, they might get the slot, or somebody has 1 loss and we have 2. So what I'm hoping to do is set the stage for that down the road, that we would, the Big East was a rotating member of the BCS. They didn't have a home, goal game. They didn't have an annual game they went to, but they had a guaranteed slot on New Year's Day in those bowl games, and that's what I'd like. And so all you can do is, if public opinion is on your side, if the media is on your side, it creates a certain amount of pressure. You reach a critical mass, and maybe it does some good. I can tell you this: if I didn't do anything, I don't think much would happen, much would change.
A couple teams in the top 25. What credit do you think you deserve personally as commissioner for the strength of the league going into this season and over multiple seasons?
I don't think any, other than I think again, my vision for the league was that we could do this. And if we held together 7 years ago, we had a better shot. If these schools had splintered off, if they were in some of these other G5 leagues, they wouldn't get anywhere near the exposure. And obviously the TV deal has helped in terms of the exposure. Now we have a TV deal with a lot more money that I think can help, and that's my job. And my job is also to promote them. I think the P6 campaign has been successful to the extent that it's got people thinking about us, realizing that we are much closer to those 5. And I think we've separated ourselves. We clearly have. And I think the strength now, the credit goes to the schools, for recruiting, for doing it, with coaching changes, for doing it without the revenue the other guys have. That's all hard. Those are hard things to do, but they've done it. But I think, my job is to hold the conference together, to promote the conference, to create a narrative so that when we have these big wins over Ole Miss after they've just beaten Alabama, or Florida State in the bowl game, or Auburn in the bowl game, or Oklahoma, or all these great wins we have, it's part of a narrative. It's not just a one-off. That's my job.
All right, so it kind of ends abrupt because I was ready to get back to the game, to be honest with you. I had 6.5 minutes of that nonsense.
So did he shake your hand and say thank you after that?
Yeah, he did.
Really? I'm surprised he didn't, run. That you weren't rude to him or anything, but you asked him questions. There was no softballs in that.
I don't think I have been rude to him.
No, but there's been a couple times that...
I don't think he gets many hardball questions, so he can deal with it.
Yeah. There was one time. what did we were like? Oh, we're never going to have him on the show again because something happened. I don't know. It was the basketball thing.
Yeah, I did 25-minute interview with him at the basketball and said, "Will you post that UCF is the national champions on the AAC website?" Oh, what was it? The Swedish Chef? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
He is? 'Cause
If I had to name a Muppet name for him, I'd make him a Swedish Chef.
shocking that she's got a Muppet name lined up. She's got a Muppet for everybody.
Is there a Muppet that's a clown? Because he would be perfect.
No, I think that's the closest thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I'm
Swedish
in New
Chef.
Orleans on Saturday night, and we're out, out and about, and there's this clown sitting there, and people are like, not sure if it's a real clown, and there's a bucket in front of it, and people are throwing money because the clown's not moving at all. And I watch this, and I don't like that. I don't want people jumping out at me and stuff, so I'm watching from a distance, It's not a clown. It's not a person. It's just a statue. And every so often, the guy who's put the statue there goes and empties the bucket.
That's awesome.
That's entrepreneurial.
Yeah. It's a way to make some money. You got to do what you got to do.
Yes.
All right.
Gotta hustle. So, UConn's gone now, and he's quick to throw UConn under the bus in all of his interviews now.
Good.
But they help the strength of schedule for everybody.
Yeah.
Really, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So the AAC, what do you think of what they announced on their scheduling? They made it official what UCF's schedule is going to be for next year. Dates, of course, all of
Tough
that's
schedule.
not known. UCF will have Cincinnati, Temple, Tulane, and Tulsa at home. And then the road games are East Carolina, Houston, Memphis, and the Cows.
It's a tough schedule, especially the home schedule. I mean, I don't think we're going to have any problem with the home schedule, but it's a tough schedule.
That's a tough one. Houston, Memphis, expecting Houston a rebound. And then, of course, the Georgia Tech game where all of Knightline's listeners have been invited to Libby's house. What's the address, Libby? So we can get that.
Well, and I think East Carolina's going to be back next year, too. I've been watching them pretty close this year.
Their quarterback is pretty good.
He's been doing pretty good.
They've played some really close games this season. And
Should have beaten Cincinnati.
They were really close.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to be back next year.
But we won't jump into the breakdown the schedule until we get to the postseason.
Yeah, we got a little while to do that.
All right, are you this week's winner of a 4-pack of tickets to Island H2O Live? We will draw for that just ahead. And we've got this question in Ask Knightline. How many hand grenades did our receivers drink before the game? We will talk about that concoction and the rest of your questions when Knightline number 212 returns.
Island H2O Live, a new wave of water park.
Experience the next generation of fun at Island H2O Live. You choose the music, you choose the lighting, and you choose where to share your memorable moments at Florida's newest and most immersive water park.
Island H2O Live.
Now open in Kissimmee, located off US 192 and State Road 429 on Inspiration Boulevard.
Island H2O Live.
All right, we have another winner, I guess, right, with this?
This is correct. We asked people if they would retweet the post about Island H2O and the ticket giveaway, and Daniel Serrano is one that did, and we randomly selected him. And his Twitter handle is at Daniels583-43246.
Okay, Daniel Serrano, give me your email address in a direct message or an email to me, andrew@knightlinesports.com. And we'll get you set up with that. I was talking to James that runs the place out there, and he was telling me the other day about this promo that they did during the Tulane game. They had the first 1,000 people that came and said, "Go Knights." They let them in for free. And then everybody else after that, $24.99, which is cheap. And he was telling me they played the game, I guess, on their giant screen that's above the wave pool, which is really cool. Nice. And I was like, man, it's only like 60 degrees out. I don't think I'm going to the water park this week. And he was like, no, it's heated. So they heat all of their water to 85 degrees, which is really good. So on those cool days, you can still go out to Island H2O and have a good time. So not only when it's 90 degrees, but you can go out there when it's only 70 degrees or less, and the water will be a little bit warmer than that. So that's a good deal.
Watching the green wave in the wave pool.
Exactly, yeah. So that's cool. It's very cool that they support UCF and the Knights as much as they do. So we can only do what we can do to support them, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm glad for that.
Hey Night Nation, it's Adam from the Sons of UCF. Be sure to check out our show every Wednesday only on the Knightline Sports Network. Now, back to two guys who probably won't be Cow of the Week nominees, Andrew and Trace.
Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today.
Time again for Andrew and Libby's favorite segment, Ask Knightline, where we answer the questions you send to us on our Facebook page or via Twitter at #AskKnightline. We tease this one at Lonely B, B-E-E, UCF. First of two questions. How many hand grenades did our receivers drink before the game? The hand grenade is a drink that you will find in New Orleans that consists of vodka, rum, gin, rectified spirits, and melon liqueur.
What is rectified spirits?
I don't know. I'm just reading the ingredients list.
No, I can't answer.
I don't like when they say anything is rectified. that sounds bad.
Let me click on
I mean, I can't answer for the receivers, but I can tell you that the parents had a good time. I could tell on Twitter the mom squad and the dad squad had a good time on.
Before we answer this question, what is your drink of choice?
Oh, definitely a beer.
Craft beer?
Craft beer, 100%.
And what particular craft beer?
Oh, gosh, I can't. That's like asking who's my favorite child. I can't pick just one. But...
Which of them is? No, we wouldn't ask that. We'll do a poll on it, though. No.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't really have I can always find a good beer. So, but no, I don't drink hard alcohol at all or anything like that. So I would not be drinking hand grenades.
How do rumors start like this that you're going to be drinking? I mean, I don't understand.
I don't know.
I don't know, Trace.
I think Lonely Bee is making light of the fact we had a number of drops.
I think so, too,
yes. Yeah. Which I mean, it's going to happen, right? Players are going to drop passes, but it was uncharacteristic to have that many.
It is very uncharacteristic. So, yeah, something was going on. I don't know. Maybe the other team was greasing the footballs or something. Who knows?
Well, you've already got them locking the bathrooms.
Well, I mean, there's been stuff that has happened many times, so you never know. Something may have been up.
Well, Lonely Bee's other question is, with our struggles protecting the quarterback and creating holes, is it time to move Gabe Davis and Marlon Williams to offensive line? Again, I think he's having a little bit of fun with this, but I really did like the way they blocked on Otis's run.
Yeah.
And it does speak to some of the challenges we've seen with the offensive line. I think that will be a definite area of focus for recruiting and much talk in the offseason.
Yeah, those guys,
several guys that are going to need to be replaced. You know, Jordan Johnson amongst them.
Yeah, and those guys, those two wide receivers do quite a bit of blocking out there that sometimes people don't see. So they do a good job. Quite a bit.
At Brian W. Peterson, with a large handful of seniors graduating after the season or leaving for the NFL, should we be concerned with a drop in productivity in 2020?
I don't think so, because I think that this recruiting class is pretty good. I think that we're going to get pretty much everybody that we thought we were going to get, and I have faith in this recruiting class. Some people, for some reason, I don't know why, they're freaking out because they don't understand recruiting, I guess, or whatever, but they're saying, oh, what's with the drop-off in recruiting? There is no drop-off in recruiting, folks. This recruiting class is going to be one of the best. Maybe it's not top 50 or whatever, but it doesn't have to be. You see what kind of players we've been getting and developing players. We've always been good at that. I think we're still riding the wave of a couple good seasons with this recruiting class as well. I'm not worried about it at all.
At Golden Knight _2, does this performance versus a previously undefeated team at home move the needle in terms of improving as a road team, or do you feel that major issues still exist since we were, in his words, quote, bailed out by the refs at the end? What's the reference there to the bailed out?
I have no idea.
The onside kick was, and I was at a bad vantage, and I have not seen the replay, but it didn't seem that was an unfair play. They played better, certainly. I would like to have seen a game like they played at Temple. Obviously, I don't know. I mean, the bowl game will be at a neutral site unless it's something where our fans pack it and make a difference like they did in Tulane, and I think that was a factor. I don't know. I don't know that we know. You know, there's now 3-3 on the road and looking for a perfect record on Friday. Back on this question, though, on the recruiting, I thought Kyle did point something out. You look at the school from Tampa, when they didn't have a quarterback in Quentin Flowers, look how things have unraveled for them. And if you go school by school or you look at any level of the pros, if you don't have a good quarterback, it's really hard to win games.
Yeah.
And so if nothing else, you like where you stand in the future with what you have at the quarterback
we've got a good
position.
quarterback coming in as a recruit as well. A couple, maybe. There's been quite a few. So, yeah, quarterbacks want to come and play in this system. Trust me on that.
At We Are UCF Family, all football season, there seems to be multiple players getting injured each week, especially when compared to the previous seasons. Is conditioning at the level it should be possibly be the root cause? I don't know how we know that. Or is it just football and there is an ebb and flow to everything in the sport? I don't know how we will know
late
that.
in the season. Yeah. Of course they're going to get injured more.
I do think we, certainly in 2017, went through...
We were lucky, people.
Pretty injury-free.
We were lucky.
And up until Mackenzie's injury, we hadn't had a significant injury. But I'll ask you this. Are the 3 losses this season because we didn't have Brandon Moore? I don't think so. Right?
No, absolutely not.
And we have a lot of good running backs, and you want Greg McCrae there, and you want Adrian Killens there. But when they've been out, we've had Bentavia step up, and Otis has flourished the last couple of weeks. I don't think that's why we've had struggles either.
No.
With, you want McCrae in there and you want Killens in there, but not having them in there.
Not a single person being in this game or the games did not lose games for us. It didn't with people being injured.
Yeah.
It absolutely didn't. The better team won.
And I think there is an evening out. Just like the question about, or the conversation earlier about turnovers. They got a lot of turnovers on defense in 17 and 18, not as many this year. But you've seen opportunities for them. It's just the ball bounces a funny way. I mean,
we were really lucky with a lot of things the last couple of years. People don't realize, they refuse to believe, I think, that we were very, very lucky. The ball bounced our way a bunch of times where it could have easily gone the other way. So
don't quote me on the exactness of this, but the facts are essentially right. So Minnesota won to go to 10 wins. How many 10-win seasons has Minnesota had in the last 100 years? By the way, they've been playing football since 1882.
Yeah.
How many?
Know. But I mean, look at
2.
Look at any school.
2.
Yeah.
2. They're a member of the Big Ten.
Right.
They don't have to compete against a Florida or Florida State or, where you are, Georgia Tech or Alabama, Auburn. It's Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
They've got the entire state as a recruiting background. 2 seasons in 100 years of playing football. And they have all that TV money from the Big Ten network and all of that. So that this team, I know there's still 2 games to go in the season, but to get to 10 wins, in which 3 losses, and I'm not making excuses for the reasons they lost again, but I don't know what our fans, some at least, want. Every week a win by 50 points is just not the reality.
Again, we need to chill out a little bit. There were some people that I argued with on Facebook, I think, more than anything else in one of the groups. And I was not going to go here, but I'm going to go here now. I'm going to read what this moron said. I'm going to call him a moron because that's what he is. I'm not going to mention his name. I'm just going to say it's Mike.
Now you've offended all the Mikes.
No, not our Mike on Sons of UCF. This guy's name is Mike. For those of you who think Heupel is a good coach, you're not paying attention. Lack of discipline, poor predictable play calling with no adjustments, putting our quarterback at risk by running him excessively, which you in parentheses, which you don't have to do if you had a better play set. Weak road performances, inability, which is spelled wrong, to play teams away, etc. It's all coaching. He is wasting the enormous amount of talent on this team. Maybe he will get better, I don't know. And then later on in this thread, he wants him fired, and we ask him, a bunch of us reply back to him, okay, who are we going to hire?
Oh, my gosh.
This guy is a freaking moron. And there's a lot of people out there that just need to, let it go a little bit. In fact, another guy on Twitter, I'm going to say his name is Tyler, he said, another UCF win. Another day of UCF fans bitching about it. And then he has the roll your eyes emoji. This fan base has gotten disgustingly toxic and straight up annoying. And just a PSA, you don't fire a 20-4 coach. Absolutely moronic. that was the tweet of the day as far as I'm concerned, and the other guy was the Twittiot of the week. So it's ridiculous. I mean, everybody needs to relax a little bit, like we've been saying for I don't know how long. It's just getting dumb. Even when we're winning. I mean, this guy was posting this thing on Facebook. Mike was posting this during the game. People complain about Dylan Gabriel not running enough, and then when he finally does run, he's running too much. I mean, it's just ridiculous. These people need to be educated on football. This guy obviously has no clue what he's talking about at football. He probably played volleyball in high school or whatever. He didn't play any football, obviously. Sorry, that's my rant.
Well, and can I ask this question? I mean, at what point do we say that our conference is actually really good?
It's gotten a lot better this year.
It's really good. So, so you have some people are saying, "Oh, you don't play anybody," and then they want us to kill everybody. But then our conference is actually doing well, so they are giving us some competition. So that's the point that I don't understand.
They stepped up because they weren't going to beat us in any other way except to step up themselves.
Right.
So our conference got a lot better.
Exactly.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens. Yeah. Yes, there is one game on this schedule that we lost, one loss in this whole thing that never should have happened.
Right.
Tulsa. That never, ever should have happened. But it easily could have happened, and by a very small point margin with Pittsburgh and Cincinnati on the road.
And I think we're forgetting that during the win streak, there were some games that if they don't go the right,
if the
things
ball
don't go the right
literally
way,
didn't bounce the right way,
and we've talked about this in light of the anniversary of Mackenzie's injury. I think as time passes, and this is not a disrespect to Daryl Mack or Dylan, you had a unique talent that comes around only so often. That doesn't mean Dylan won't eclipse all his records and be his own guy, but Mackenzie bailed out breakdowns in the line, and he scrambled for plays, and he made things happen. They don't win at Memphis if he doesn't do what he does in that game.
I got news for everybody, by the way, on that. If Dylan keeps going passing the way that he is, those Mackenzie records on passing go away really quickly. Just
and
so
that's what you want.
Not the running, but the passing records go away very, very quickly if Dylan keeps going the way that he is.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, you started off the show talking about a variety of stats.
It's awesome to have a guy like Mackenzie, obviously, but you want the next guy after that to be just as good, if not better. Yep. We all love Mackenzie. We will always love Mackenzie. But we've got a guy that has a chance to eclipse those records. And I want the next guy after that to eclipse his records. It's not that we're rooting for anybody over anybody else. It's just that we've got something very special with this quarterback. So, all right, back. Do we have more questions? Or we kind of got off. I'm sorry.
No, that's,
I got off on a little tangent there.
And at always UCF night, glad we won, but when will we see a complete game where all three phases are working? I mean,
we've seen them through the year.
I know.
We have.
You think?
I think we've seen a couple at home.
I think Temple was the most complete performance of the season. There were drop-offs against Stanford. They didn't finish out completely strong, and I don't know. I don't know that I think Temple was the best all-round game,
probably.
But
I mean, we've got literally this last game and a bowl game left, so I don't think many things are going to get better right now. I think next year is where things are going to get better. They've got a lot to work on. They know what they need to work on for next season. It kind of is what it is right now. I mean, it's not going to... drastic things are not going to happen between Black Friday and the bowl game. They're not.
Yeah.
So, Black Friday's coming up. Hate the Cows week, and that's the most important game. Rivalry game, trophy game. Everybody, thank you for your questions. Hashtag Ask Knightline on Twitter at UCF_Knightline and on Facebook as well.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports.
Women's basketball moves to 3-2 with a 75-49 victory over Delaware Sunday. Libby?
Men's tennis releases its 2020 schedule, highlighted by 10 home matches. The Knights open with Mercer on January 17th.
Why does she not have any names? Why did we not have all the names we had
you
last
wrote
week?
This.
I know,
You
but there
wrote
were no
this.
names.
No, but
really.
there's names here.
Well, you can say all
And
those.
finally, back to volleyball. Congrats to first team all-conference selections Anne-Marie Watson, McKenna Melville, and Christina Fisher.
And congratulations again to volleyball, back-to-back American champs. And as we've been talking about throughout the show, men's soccer advances to the round of 16 in the NCAA men's soccer tournament.
Pretty good sports week for UCF.
I would say so.
I think it was pretty good.
So we survived. Libby.
Absolutely.
Libby. No, we survived Libby.
Libby did a good job here today.
So is
I
it
had
everything
fun.
you thought it would be now and more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm super impressed with this.
Will you listen with a renewed
Yes,
appreciation?
now that I've seen the behind the scenes. Yes.
You know how it goes,
It's
and you
very
know that it
interesting.
takes like 4 hours to do this
Yeah.
2-hour show.
very
No,
cool.
not that long this time.
We had
It was
fun.
three.
Though.
Yeah,
It was
fun.
it was fun.
It was fun.
I enjoyed having you here.
Look forward to
In
seeing
all
you guys
seriousness,
at the tailgate.
it's great,
Yeah.
punching with you online. So
All
you're
right.
fun. You're fun.
All right, well, this has been Knightline 212. I'm Andrew Phegley.
You're...
Libby Christensen.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield.